You want to hear a joke?
Yeah.
So a Roman soldier walks into a bar, says, "I'll have 5 beers."
Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Josh.
And I am Drew.
This is our pull list episode for August 26th, 2015. This week we're going to start off with Batgirl number 43. Am I in frame? I am in frame. This is written by Fletcher and Stewart with art and inks by Tar and Castro, as well as some coloring by LaPointe.
So plot-wise, she investigates these tech students being framed for murders via Tiger.
Yeah, Tiger murder.
Tiger murder.
I haven't seen that before. Right off the bat, I'm glad we've picked this up.
Me too, actually.
It's a pretty fun read. It's a lot different than a lot of the other stuff we're reading.
It's a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I expected it to be sort of dumb and one-dimensional like the Harley Quinn comic, but no, it's actually got some merit to it.
Yeah, I would say this is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, even though it's still sort of young female.
It's still very playful.
And playful, yeah.
But it does have a plot, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it has a pretty interesting plot, actually. I'm enjoying the intrigue of it in like a teen comedy mystery kind of way. It's not much above like a Scooby-Doo mystery.
Actually, that's something that I was thinking about while I read it. See, the art in this is very light and playful and cartoony and such. I think if we put maybe Capullo or somebody on it, I think it would give off a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
I think we actually have a pretty solid story in here. I mean, there's lots of, heartache and villainy and, all the sort of things that could easily make up a very dark comic, but just because the way that it's drawn and colored and such with the light color palette and, the big eyes and stuff, it does give off that teeny sort of vibe.
Well, I'm not putting it down. I'm not saying it's a negative thing, but I don't feel like there's a whole lot of like mystery and intrigue happening here. It's kind of a straightforward mystery. It's just a whodunit.
Right.
Is kind of what I'm getting at. It's not like super complicated to try to keep track of all the elements going on. It's no like Detective Comics sort of thing.
I don't even know if I would put Detective Comics as more mysterious than this.
No, it's not. I mean, it's currently not.
Yeah.
Art-wise, I love the art in this.
It's fantastic.
It's got this weight to it. Just the way this penciler manages to draw motion and people at rest. People just sitting or standing and talking to one another.
Not to mention facial expressions.
Yeah, the expressions are great, yeah.
It's perfect. You always can tell what somebody's feeling.
Yeah, the character art in here is just really good. I really like looking through it. It's a lot of fun, And they, it just looks, I can't get over how it looks like a real three-dimensional cartoon world. It's hard to put it's hard to explain because it's an artistic form, but I think when people look at it, they'll see what I mean. One
last note about the writing in this. I think it's very impressive how much story they packed into this one issue.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of books every week, and they're the same size as this one, but probably half the dialogue, half of the inner monologue, half of the exposition. This is really, a good solid read. This probably took me the longest to read out of all of the comics this week.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a long read. There's a lot in here.
Yeah, every page is just bubble, 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 and it never detracts from anything. The flow is always great. It never comes off as too much. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And there's a large cast of diverse characters too.
There really are, and they all come into play.
Mm-hmm. And not just diverse, sort of on like a superficial level either.
Right.
But it is superficially diverse as well. There's a Muslim girl and the black girl and
the lesbian couple.
Right, lesbian couple. It's sort of
the corporate diversity.
Right, but it's done really well. I don't feel talked down to or like it's just a marketing ploy, even though it might be.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't feel like I'm being sold to by the fact that, they have a diverse cast. It's just, that's the way that life is.
Sure.
So.
Right. Yeah, it makes it feel real
mm-hmm.
and practical. I actually wrote practical on my little card here. There's a lot of things about it that feel practical. The way she's dealing with, it's almost Spider-Man in that way, which I've always thought Batgirl was sort of a female Spider-Man kind of character anyway.
And that she has like a real life outside of...
Right, a real life with real responsibility that oftentimes will pull her away from her superheroing and vice versa. You know, she's just as likely to be like, oh, I got to stop my superheroing to go meet my friend.
Look at dresses or
to
something.
look at dresses, yeah. As much as, oh, I've got to leave the looking at dresses to go, you know,
help somebody
fight
not get mauled by a tiger.
Yeah. Which I think is really cool. And there's also lots of little practical elements that they throw in. It could be the writer, it could be the artist. Like her bat cycle.
Yeah.
It shows her getting it out, and it's cheesy and goofy and non-realistic in the way that it folds up. She's got it in a little suitcase and sets it down, and then it looks like a full-on crotch rocket. But the fact that she's getting it out from where she hid it and sort of shows the practicality of how the world works, I think is really cool. Lastly, Drew, there was that I think it was like an executive memo that came out either today or yesterday, where this title came up, right? Where they, DC's in the hole. They're losing money. They're not making what they thought on the comics. And one of the main points that the executive brought up was they need to stop Batgirl-ing their titles. Being that we're enjoying this title.
And probably some other titles that would fall under that criteria.
Right, another one that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, which is Prez, which we will get to that review in about 10 minutes. But on that note, what do you think of that memo? What do you think of this idea that they need to bring things back to a strong continuity? They talked about getting Superman back out of the jeans and back in his, Superman outfit, and just stop trying to go for this loose continuity, everybody doing their own take on comics thing.
It kind of reminds me of being a musician and playing around town, honestly, because you'll see these new restaurants pop up and they'll be like, hey, we want to have live music here, and they'll do it for like 2 weeks and then be like, yeah, it's just not really drawing the crowd, that we thought it would, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, first of all, like, nobody knows that they can even come here to hear music. This is like the second time you've done it ever. And second of all, nobody knows about your damn restaurant at all. And the fact that, you do have people here pulling in people who would normally go to your restaurant, it just seems very short-sighted to me. Like, they expected instant image money by making this conversion. And I would say that most of the diehard indie comic fans right now aren't even aware of titles like this and Prez and stuff that they would thoroughly enjoy, and isn't tied up in all that Jeff Jonesian universe. So yeah, that's my thought. Is it's incredibly short-sighted of them to pull back on it this early in the game.
Mm-hmm. I have mixed emotions about it. For me personally, I don't like what they're talking about, because I do. Just like you, I like the Batgirling of DC. I think for people like us, people that are less interested in the fanboyish continuity for continuity's sake, and who would win in a fight sort of conversations, this and the other books like it from DC are what I'm looking for. They're the things that I want to read. I want to read the things that sort of go out on a limb, do things that are different, aren't just doing Superman loses his powers for the 37 bajillionth time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, DC's core fan base, I think, love Jeff Johns. They love Dan Didio, or whatever his name is. They love these household names that do these soap opera sort of comics where everything's connected and all the characters do exactly what you expect them to do at every turn.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't be completely opposed to it if I would be assured that titles like this would start popping up on Vertigo. Because Vertigo used to be just like the powerhouse, man. Like, you get anything on Vertigo, you're guaranteed that it's going to be fucking knock it out of the park, especially like when they first came around. So yeah, moving Batgirl over to Vertigo and giving them more creative control and stuff like that, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
But just getting rid of it altogether and I don't even know what Vertigo's doing right now. I think they have some werewolf comic I don't give a shit about, and it's it's in a weird spot, man.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Batgirl will stay Batgirl. They want to de-Batgirl everything else and leave the Batgirl to Batgirl. So we don't have to worry about this title, I don't think.
Yeah, and I know Prez is slated for 12 issues at the current moment, so that's cool.
Well, then let's go ahead and move on to the next title. This is Big Trouble in Little China. This is by Fred Van Lent, Eisma, and Duarte.
So in this issue, the mercenaries turn on Jack, who's trying to escape with his life in his truck.
Yeah, sort of the same issue we've read quite a few times.
A couple times now, yeah.
And that's okay. Overall, I'm liking this one more than I've liked the last few.
I like the last one more than this one.
Really?
I got one solid laugh out loud out of this, which is kind of a disappointment, because the last one I got a good 2 or 3, which was kind of like, okay, well, you're winning me over now. So it seems a little bit like a step backward for me, personally.
Yeah, well, I feel like since this team took over, this book has become something that revolves around just trying to get some gags in. I feel like everything is the setup for the next gag, which isn't really my cup of tea, to be honest.
No.
I'm not loving this book anymore. I'm not even really particularly liking it that much. But this one got a few laughs out of me. I kind of liked that everything finally came to a bit of a head, and we got to see a little bit of a resolution on what's happening here, or at least a setup for the next paradigm of this, which I think is going to be him with the daughter.
Probably. I think, and I was thinking about this after I did the whole burying Escape from New York thing last week. If 1 through 12 hadn't set such a high standard, I don't think I would have as many criticisms about this. It's just that 1 through 12, the art was so good, and the plot was just so thick, and I mean there was just crazy shit happening all the times, and it was so funny and so fun to read and fun to look at. Whereas this is I would put it a standard 6 out of 10. A chuckle-worthy book. And if it had came out like this, if 13 was number 1, yeah, I'd probably still read it.
I don't think I would.
You don't think so?
No. Like you said, the first 12, they sort of roiled with humor. They just boiled over with it. Everything was a joke about the last thing, and the next thing was a setup for the next. And
again, so much happened. I mean, he goes through probably 496 layers of hell, within the first 12 issues, which
sure.
Is awesome.
And there was even a lot of turn of phrase and a lot of writer's humor. And there was a lot of artistic humor, too. There were a lot of little jokes that were thrown in that were just completely visual jokes. Whereas this just feels like such a step back from that. It's so much more by the numbers. The art is just there to serve the story, which, like you say, if you're not comparing it to the previous, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with an artist that is just trying to serve the story and illustrate what the writer's given them. Mm-hmm. But the care that was put into the first 12 was just so much higher than what we get here. A lot of the jokes are so cheap.
See, that's the thing. In 1 through 12, a lot of the jokes were really cheap, too. That's not what your mama said. But it just came off way more intelligent for some reason.
Yeah, it came off more self-aware. It felt like the writer knew that it was a cheesy joke, but that's the joke that this character would tell.
Yeah.
As compared to this feels just like a writer telling bad jokes to me, which I think is the main problem here. Well, let's go back to DC then. Like we said, we're going to talk about Prez here. This is another comedic book. We got a lot of light fare this week. And this is by Russell, Caldwell, Morales, and Lawson.
This issue, we see Beth, she gets to pick her cabinet. And she's in a weird spot because she doesn't know any politicians. She doesn't owe anybody any favors, so she can really pick whoever the hell she wants. Mm-hmm. She gives a Neil deGrasse Tyson facsimile a job, the head of the science, whatever. It was a fun read, all in all. I think this is my pick of the week, easily.
Yeah, this was a fun read. I liked the stuff sort of hammering on Walmart and the Walmart culture and just the modern time clock culture in general. They really lambasted that whole concept and took it to its extreme. I thought the sign in the bathroom really summed up what a lot of this issue was about, and it read, "Every second counts, and we are counting."
Yeah.
Everything that these workers do is by the second. I work a job right now that I like the job. It's a good job, but it's the kind of job where you are counted by the minute. You clock out for break, you're expected to be back at the 15-minute mark. You clock out for lunch, you're expected to be back at, the exact time. If you clock in a minute late, you get, dinged.
See, I hate that shit, and that's why I love this comic so much, because it just takes this hyperbole of absurdity that we're currently living in and just magnifies it even further. And it makes me laugh about things that make me cry the rest of the time, and that's a good accomplishment for any book.
Yeah, it just ratchets it up and takes it to its natural extreme.
Which isn't even that far from where we are, and that's
Right.
that's the worst and the best part about it. I really like the art in this too. It's very playful, very clever. I feel like it's the perfect match for the story.
Yeah, I did too. There was one page in particular that stands out to me that was the colorist doing, where they colored nothing in the page basically except for the characters that are conversing, which was just, there was no reason for it per se. There was no point in doing that. I wonder if even it was just, not necessarily an oversight, but just a cheap way to get a page done. Maybe. But it had a cool effect, and I enjoyed it. And,
I liked it quite a bit.
I felt like that with a lot of this stuff. Like, it wasn't, there's nothing in this art that's blowing me away, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just perfect for what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of lighthearted art. It's just fun to look at, but not overly done.
Again, pick of the week. I'm absolutely loving this book.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I have no real hard criticisms of it.
Well, let's move to the last book that we read this week. And this was not funny. Old Man Logan #4. This is by Bendis, Sorrentino, and Mayolo.
Mayololo?
Mayolo. Just maybe.
This book is a lot of Logan killing zombies, and he made a friend.
Yeah, he meets, spoiler alert, She-Hulk. Shulk. And kills a bunch of Venom zombies. Man, nothing happens, really.
Yeah, not really.
And I didn't mind, to be honest.
There's not really a lot. I mean, a lot happens, like he kills millions of these zombies, presumably. But plot-wise, it doesn't really move too much. I do have to commend them, though, because through all the pages of essentially nothing happening, the flow from one panel to another was just effortless.
Yeah.
Like, almost superhumanly perfect layout.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. And that can be tricky in a book where, again, like, you have 4 pages of, like, a single scene. Like, how do you even start to serialize panels at that point? I did it.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens that's just visual storytelling. And the visual storytelling is mostly just Logan is slashing at Venom zombies. But it does manage to make it pretty damn intriguing to read through. And I think what helps is I feel like Bendis really nails Logan's voice. I really get into his writing of Logan. I think it's pretty cool. And it even approaches that Jason Aaron Weird World sort of writing to me, where it's visceral and very heavy, but it's also kind of poetic.
It's stream of consciousness poetry.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sort of lamenting and the such.
Yeah, and I was pleasantly surprised with that in this issue, because that was my initial criticism, is that, man, I just want to know what he's thinking. Just sometimes I'm sure it's terrible and I would enjoy it because of that. And in this, yeah, he points out some of the things. He talks about how It's like he's wondering like if God is testing him, and he's wondering if he's gonna die, and just all of these rationalizations.
Right. If he is dead already.
Right. Yeah.
If
he's
in
still
hell.
Weapon X. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, man, I liked this issue, but I do feel like at $4, I can see why some people, especially if they're not the kind of person who's into art, if you're the kind of reader that's just totally writer-oriented and the art is just there to serve the story, I think you might feel like you got kind of ripped off for $4 on this, because there's really, if you cut out all the art, I want to just show like a random page here. You know, we have what is presumably 4x4, 32 panels, but it's really just one piece of art, and it's, you know, 2 sentences for 2 pages. You know, and you flip to the next page, and it's pretty much
basically the same.
It's basically the same. Most of these, there's very little happening from a writing standpoint. It's just sort of filling in the basics of what's going on and telling you how Logan feels. It's mostly some simple character development. I would say this is Bendis writing for the trade. This issue will be really cool when it's sandwiched between 2 other issues.
Yeah.
From a writing standpoint. But for now...
For an issue, yeah, it's like you read it and it's like, oh, okay, well, we're kind of in the same place. Well, he ends in a different place, which is the big... I'm not going to spoil it, whatever.
Of course he does. That's been the way it's been
That's
for the other
way
3.
It goes, right. Yeah. And the next issue is going to be our last issue of this Secret Wars, Old Man Logan. So I'm kind of excited to see how it all wraps up.
I am excited because of where he ended up.
Yeah.
And that's a pairing that most people who love Logan love. So that's a good way to wrap it up. I'll be excited to see this ending. It should be fun.
I do want to mention, though, what the fuck is this? We get a ethnic, we'll say, Captain America, and now there's a book called Captain America White coming out.
Yeah, he's the white Captain America.
It's so lame. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the joke we made? The genetically superior Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Peter Parker comes back. It's fucked up, dude. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, there's better ways to do this, because it's... This team, they did the Spider-Man... It even says it here. Spider-Man blue and Hulk gray and Daredevil yellow. It's like a thing that they do. Like, they put a color next to a superhero, and somehow that's their calling card.
The timing and placement.
Everybody knows Jeff Loeb was so incredibly creative. It's sarcasm. But yeah, is there no foresight? Is there no editor that looked at that and said...
That's probably racist.
Let's not do that. That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah. It's absurd.
Yeah, super.
He could have called it literally anything else.
Yeah.
Even red, white, and blue.
Even just go with red.
Yeah, or just red.
Red's fine. Or blue. Well, there's already Spider-Man blue. You don't want to step on those toes, creative license and all that.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Then we're both excited for this Deadpool versus Thanos.
We are.
The way he's drawn, it's like some kind of weird seal.
All right, well, I think that wraps it up for us this week. Check back with us on Monday morning when we will have our monthly review. We're going to go through our top and favorite titles for the month, talk about why we loved them, what's cool about them, and why you should make sure to read them. And we'll also talk about the stuff that we didn't like, pretty much at all, that we'll probably be dropping. Finally...
Well, I got blocked on Twitter by somebody, too. I'm really excited about it. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will definitely be talking about that. We will also talk about what we're going to add next month. We've got a couple of ideas. And then, of course, check back with us next Wednesday night, Thursday morning, when we will do another poll list review for the week. And that will be it.
Yeah.
That's all. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. Do the comments.
Twitter.
Yeah, that. Do a Facebook one. Isn't that backwards or something? You gotta go the other way.
Well, I don't have a lot of space over here, man.
I'll do it.
There you go.
Facebook.